2 months ago, my wife lost her aunt. Along the course of our marriage, I had met this particular aunt of hers maybe 3 times. She was a welcoming and nice person as far as I remember. However, the surprising and weird part was she had a lot of dolls in her house. I mean, I heard that old unmarried ladies have a lot of cats or dogs, but this woman had dolls. All sorts of dolls. At first I thought maybe she was just an avid collector. But later I came to know that she took care of the dolls as if they were her kids. She used to bathe them, clean them, dress them and whatnot. But after her death, we came to know that she had left her entire doll collection to my wife. I was a bit uncomfortable by this, but I didn't say anything as it would just make my wife upset. She shared a special bond with her aunt. Me commenting on the dolls would be disrespectful. When the day arrived when we were supposed to shift the dolls to our place, my wife did not bring all the dolls home. I was super happy about it. She brought about 10 dolls from the collection, the most valuable ones, and placed them in various places in our home. 2 of them were kept on a rocking chair in our basement. Let me tell you something. Our basement is not like other creepy basements. It's fully furnished, and I and my friends sometimes play video games in it, as it's a den for me and my buddies to chill. The first incident happened when my friends had just left the house after playing video games for a few hours. I was sitting alone in the basement watching TV. My wife was not home. While I was looking at the screen, I could see something moving from the corner of my eye. We do not have kids or pets, so to find out what it was, I turned my head and saw the rocking chair on which the dolls were kept rocking. We do not have a window in the basement, so it wasn't due to the air. I ignored the incident and kept watching TV. Nothing of significance happened afterward, so this incident slipped my mind. A few weeks later, I woke up in the middle of the night to hear an ear-piercing scream. I looked beside me, and it was my wife. She was rubbing her neck and gasping for air. Tears were running down her eyes, and she was profoundly sweating. I took her into my arms to calm her down and asked her what was the matter.
I think someone was sitting on my chest and choking me.
Honey, you have been stressed out lately, and it must be a bad case of sleep paralysis. I think you should take the week off from the office and just stay home and relax. The next day, my wife stayed at home while I went to work. As the day went by, I forgot all about the previous night's incident. That's when I got a call from my wife. On the call, she sounded afraid and shocked.
Dan, I need you to get back home as soon as possible. I'm so terrified, Dan. I don't know what's going on. Please, come home.
Hey, Maya, please slow down. Can you tell me what happened? And I'm on my way back.
Dan, a few minutes ago I was cleaning the basement and was utterly shocked. The rocking chair where the dolls were seated started moving, and it happened twice. I was so scared that I ran upstairs and called you. Now I'm hiding in our bedroom. Dan, please come home fast.
After hearing her story, I was spooked, and I remembered what happened to me a few weeks ago. I did not want to make assumptions, but I think the dolls were haunted. I reached home and ran to my wife. After speaking about our experiences, we decided to keep the dolls in the attic, as it was tough for my wife to throw them away. I immediately shifted the dolls to the attic. That night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps walking in the attic. I immediately knew something was up with the dolls. I ran to our attic and saw the 2 dolls not in the box I put them in, but laying on the floor facing me. I was scared, but I still gathered the courage and picked up the dolls to put them back in the box. The next night, I again woke to the screams of my wife. She had sleep paralysis again, but this time, she also had a handprint over her neck. The handprint was small and resembled the hand size of the dolls. I went to the attic, and again, the dolls were out of the box, sitting on the ground facing me. The situation was getting out of hand. I and Maya decided that we would call a priest and ask him to take a look at the dolls. When the priest arrived, he immediately walked toward the attic. He went inside, and the dolls were sitting on the floor facing us once again. We told the priest everything we had faced since the arrival of the dolls. After hearing our story, the priest suggested getting rid of the dolls. He said,
The souls of two dead women are trapped in these dolls. They want to be free, and that's why they are haunting you. Unless you get rid of the dolls or destroy them, you won't be able to free yourself from their trouble.
We asked the priest how the souls of the women became trapped in the dolls. That's when he told us the whole truth. Maya's aunt was not an avid doll collector, but she was into black magic. She trapped the souls of the people she did not like into the dolls. After hearing this, I and my wife were scared. The two dolls that were in our attic had two evil spirits in them. The priest believed that these two evil spirits killed Maya's aunt too, and now they were trying to kill all the members of Maya's family. We asked the priest how we could get rid of the dolls, and he told us to rip the dolls apart and burn them, then collect their ashes and bury them on the church grounds. I and Maya decided to do it that evening. We had the dolls in the backyard and were about to proceed with the ritual. That's when suddenly Maya began to scream. The dolls were lying on the ground, but Maya was clutching her throat as if someone had grabbed her neck and was trying to choke her. I went towards her, but couldn't do anything as I couldn't see what was choking her. With a weak hand, Maya pointed toward the dolls, and I immediately knew what she was asking me to do. I grabbed the knife and picked up one of the dolls. I plunged the knife into its throat and shredded the rag doll apart. I picked up the other doll and did the same with it. I went near the fire pit we had made and tried to start a fire. But suddenly, the wind picked up speed and it was impossible to get the fire started. In the meanwhile, I sensed something weird around us, as if someone was there other than me and my wife. When I looked at my wife, she was not sitting on the bench she was previously sitting on. Rather, she was levitating in the air. Her eyes were white and there was a weird smile on her face. That's when I realized that I had done a grave mistake. I had freed the two evil spirits and they had entered my wife's body. Suddenly, Maya was on her feet and with a creepy smile and white eyes, she marched toward me. I picked up the dolls and ran into the house. I ran towards the stove and tried to light it, but somehow it was not working. At that moment, my wife kicked our front door down and walked in. She was still possessed. She grabbed a big kitchen knife and marched in my direction. I knew if I wasn't quick, I would be dead. I ran into the living room and luckily, the fireplace was burning. I threw the dolls into the fireplace and they started burning. In front of me, my wife fainted and fell on the floor. I ran towards her and I knew the evil spirits had left her body. A few days later, when my wife had completely recovered, we burned the entire collection of dolls and buried the ashes in the temple grounds. However, I still see the look of terror on my wife's face whenever she sees dolls.
I have quite a fascination for dolls. Last year on my wedding anniversary, my husband bought me a Japanese porcelain doll. The doll was one of a kind, and he said he bought it from an antique shop. The shop owner sold the doll at a very cheap price, which seemed really surprising to me. Generally, porcelain dolls can cost up to $1,000, and even more than that. Anyway, I fell in love with the doll immediately. It was a beautiful Japanese woman dressed in authentic Japanese traditional costumes and pieces of jewelry. Her blue kimono embroidered with golden flowers looked amazing. I kept the doll in my doll room along with my other dolls. The doll was extremely beautiful, but there was something mysterious about its eyes. The doll had big eyelashes, which was very unusual in any Japanese doll, especially those made of porcelain. It appeared to me that the eyelashes were attached to the doll distinctively. I didn't pay much attention to this matter. That night, my husband took me out for a romantic dinner. We had a really nice time. After we came back home, I went to the doll room just to take a quick look. As I opened the door of the doll room and switched on the lights, my heart flunked in horror. The entire room was ransacked and my dolls were scattered all over the floor, except the Japanese doll. The entire room was out of order Only the porcelain doll stood still, on top of the shelf at the wall. I got extremely scared, thinking someone broke into our house, but there was no sign of such. With a sad and freaked out face, we arranged the entire room and went to bed. I couldn't sleep all night. I had no idea how it happened. 2 days passed like usual. One afternoon, I was alone in the house as my husband went to work. I was watching TV sitting in our living room. The doll room was right beside the living room, so I could see half of that room from our living room couch. My eyes were hooked on the TV when I felt someone standing in the doll room and watching me. As I turned towards the room, a spine-chilling shiver took over me. I saw a woman dressed exactly like the porcelain doll standing in the room. Her eyes were fixed at me. I could tell from her face that she was not at all happy to see me. Her eyes were full of anger and extremely red. I couldn't move. I couldn't blink. She kept staring at me. I stood like a statue. Then suddenly went to the other side of the room behind the walls. I stood on the couch all sweating in fear for 10 more seconds, then walked inside the doll room. There was no one there. The Japanese doll stood in the same way at the top shelf. When my husband came back home, I told him about the incident. He laughed at me and said, "Come on, Gina, you must have hallucinated. Stop being so obsessed with this Japanese doll." I thought that I might have imagined all of this after the incident that night. But a few more days passed, and then I realized how wrong my husband was. It was a stormy night. Heavy rain was going outside. My husband told me that he'll be coming home late due to some work at his office. I had my dinner and went to bed early. I drank a few glasses of wine before going to bed to sleep well. Around 12:30, 1 p.m., I heard the bedroom door opening. I said in a sleepy voice, "Baby, is it you? What took you so long? Come sleep beside me." My eyes were half closed and the room was dark. Also, I was drunk. I felt my husband walking towards the bed and lie down by my side. I told in a muffled voice, "I missed you, love," and went to hug him. As I cuddled him, his body felt extremely cold and skinny to me. I couldn't realize what was going on when suddenly my phone rang. I turned on the other side as my phone was on the table near my bed. I took the call without seeing who it was and said, "Hello? Who is it?" What happened next gives me goosebumps till today. My husband said from the other side of the phone, "Gina, it's me. I'm sorry I started late from the office. I'll be home in 15 minutes. I just called to inform you." I immediately opened my eyes. Drops of sweat started to appear on my forehead. If my husband is still on his way, then who is the one lying in my bed? I slowly turned over to the other side, and what I saw almost gave me a heart attack. It was the same Japanese woman, exactly dressed like the other doll, or should I say the doll herself, transformed into a human form. Her eyes were evil red. Her cruel smile could tell that she wanted to kill me. I started to gasp in fear, and she sprang out of bed and started to run towards the main door. As I opened the door and came out of the house, I got completely drenched in the heavy rain. My mom lived in a nearby house. I was running towards it when I looked back. Huge lightning struck above my head, and in that light, I saw the Japanese woman standing at my main door and laughing like a maniac. I was completely sure it was a ghost. Without wasting any more time, I banged on my mom's door and started crying out loud. That night I stayed at my mother's house. Later, when my husband arrived, I told him everything. Seeing my state of panic and fearful face, my husband believed me that something did happen that night. The next day, we both went to the antique shop owner to return the doll. After sharing everything I went through because of this doll, the owner confessed that this doll was believed to be haunted. The story goes that it was gifted to an empress by her emperor. The empress wanted to live through this doll even after her death, so she told her maids to perform black magic on the doll by attaching her real eyelashes. The black magic was so powerful that even after 1,000 years, her eyelashes are still the same and sticking in the same manner on the doll's face. I have stopped my hobby of collecting dolls after this incident. We have also shifted to a new house. Since then, I haven't seen that Japanese woman again.